Yes, when? Right now. Today on Searching for Sasquatch, we do Ask the Bald Guy Volume 2. If you're new to this channel, I don't know why you clicked this video of all videos. It's a little weird, frankly. But if you're not new to this channel, you may know that I did a Q&A video sometime late last year, and I figured we'd do another one if you had interesting questions, and you had. And also I figured it would be a nice filler video until I've finished work on my recording space right here. You might have noticed that I'm sitting on a couchy thing instead of on a chair behind, in front of some amps and cabs. But it's the same position. There's been a lot of work done in this room. It's been turned from a crappy little dungeon into a proper room. Like, we have heating in here now, floors. And yeah, this has been ongoing for a few months. That's why I've only been making a few amp videos and speaker videos, no big test videos like I like to do, because, you know, contractors, tradies could have come in any day. And that means I couldn't leave setups in place for long. I had to kind of set up, film really quickly, and then break down again. But once this is finished, maybe in a week or two, I'll be able to have all my stuff in one space and make videos much quicker and much more in depth. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I figured, just to keep the content going, I'd do another Q&A video. So here we are. I've been enjoying the free IRs from your videos. I was wondering what your favorite speaker is from your tests so far. Secondly, what speakers will you be shooting out testing next? Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying the free IRs. My favorite speaker I've tested so far on the channel is without a doubt the Lichtlam Audio LCFR 150 made by Fein. I really like that speaker. Anywhere I chucked the SM57 on that, it sounded really good to my ears. As for what speakers to shoot out next, I'm not sure. I still have loads of speakers and boxes I need to get to. For Celestion, there's the V-Type I want to do a test on. Also, I recently got a 7080, a speaker a lot of people hate, and a few of you have been asking me to check that out, so that came recently. For Eminence, there's the CV75 that I still want to test. I have had a Mojo Tone BV30V for at least a year here, so I want to make a video on that too. And my buddy Christoph loaned me his Tone Tubby speaker from a Diesel Cab, which is a Hemcone speaker. And he's been waiting for that speaker, waiting to get that speaker back for ages too. So that'll hopefully come up soon. Then the Celestion K100, I still have a Jensen, I still have a Jensen Electric Lightning in another box. Also, TubeAmp Doctor recently sent me some 10-inch speakers. I'm going to be doing a few videos together with TubeAmp Doctor, one of which will be a bigger test comparing the 10-inch speakers to their 12-inch counterparts. So the Jensen Blackbird, for example, that's available in 10 and 12-inch, Celestion Vintage 30 or G10 Vintage. What else? The Creambacks, 10-inch, 12-inch. We'll be doing some tests there to see how 10-inch speakers sound compared to 12-inch speakers, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And as far as that, there's lots of speakers coming. I don't see myself running out of those anytime soon, so that is definitely a segment that will stay. What are your top 3 or 5 V30 alternatives? Do you have a guitar collection? So 2-part questions. My favorite V30 alternatives, that's similar to the question before, what my favorite speakers are. That'll be the Lichtlam Audio LCFR 150. Really like that one, good speaker. I think both Creambacks from Celestion are excellent as well. I really like the Eminence Swamp Thing. And Fein has some awesome speakers as well, the F25 and the Jensen Nighthawk. I really liked the Jensen Nighthawk, so that's kind of the top 6. Those are my favorite from each manufacturer, and also my favorite V30 alternatives. Do I have a guitar collection? Unfortunately, I do. That's kind of where the insanity started, to be honest. That was the first thing I really went nuts on collecting. And if I calculated correctly, I have 13 decent electric guitars, and by decent I mean, you know, anything from middle to high priced in recording conditions, something I could record with that intonates properly, that doesn't have any problems, you know, sounds decent pickups, decent electronics, intonates properly, not too much fret buzz. And apart from that, I have one Taylor Academy Series acoustic guitar. Don't know which one exactly, the one without electronics I like very much. 2 cheapish electric guitars I started out with. One is right here. This was the first electric guitar I could afford. A bronze by BC Rich Warlock, very edgy. Didn't really choose it for the shape or anything. It was just the only one I could afford back at the time, 2014, when I was 15. I think it cost 139 euros at Musikschmidt, which is now Session Music in Frankfurt. Most overrated cab and speaker. I don't think we really have many cases of actual overrated cabs and speakers. I think the opposite is far more true. Some speakers and cabs tend to be underrated, like what do we have? The Crate Blue Voodoo series, for example. Some of the Line 6 cabs with V30s. Hughes and Kettner have cheaper cabs, or had cheaper cabs back in the day with greenbacks and V30s. But for the sake of the question, I will say the regular Mesa Boogie cabs and Marshall cabs are overrated because they're a bit overused, quite frankly, the industry standards. And take that with a grain of salt, because those are also among my favorite cabs. Like 90% of the time, I'll either be using my Mesa Oversized or one of my Marshall cabs, my Vintage 30. So only slightly maybe not overrated, but overused perhaps. There's many cool alternatives out there. Have you ever had long hair? Show us a photo. Yes, I had long hair a few times in my youth. I'm going to show you some photos right now. These two pictures were taken a few days apart. Myself and a couple of friends, we were on a vacation in Italy. One of our friends had family there, and we kind of stayed in their summer house. It was very hot, so I'm looking rather greasy on the second pic. That was me when I just turned 17. At the end of 17, I decided to go for this look. I got an undercut, and this is the picture I found in my school yearbook. And looking at that, I was definitely the cutest girl in my class. From 18 to 23, I looked pretty much like this. Short, very dark hair, and kind of a Abraham Lincoln beard there. Which high gain amp has the best clean tone? It's the VH2, isn't it? I don't know about the VH2 because I've never played one, but my buddy John Simons at Sonic Drive Studios had one for a while, and he told me that the clean channel was excellent. When I think of high gain amps with great clean channels that I've played, I think the one that comes to mind is the Framus Cobra. That has a fantastic clean channel. It's really up my alley when it comes to clean channels. I mean, there's different philosophies to clean channels. Some guys like clean channels that break up a little bit or slightly dirty. Other guys prefer clean channels that are almost sterile, like crystal clean. And I'm definitely part of the latter camp. I prefer really, really clean amps when using clean channels. I don't use clean channels often, though. I like them as contrast before the really disgusting part of the song starts. So yeah, Framus Cobra, which is why I had such an issue with the new optocouplers that tech put back in. You can listen to my Odyssey and my Framus Cobra video, but that really bothered me. That's why I started tinkering with that amp to get it back to its former glory with its crystal clean channel. So yeah, that's my answer, Framus Cobra. So here are two questions that are basically the same. One is, I'd love to hear about your favorite speaker pairings. I recently paired a K100 with a V30 and was really pleasantly surprised. I'd love to hear about what interesting combos you've tried or maybe want to try. And another question is favorite speaker pairings. I usually have a hard time finding the right combination. And I don't really have a particularly exciting answer for that. I also like the V30 K100 combination as well as the V30 Greenback combination. I think most Celestions blend well with the Celestion Vintage 30. Generally, I tend to like most V30 blends. I mean, that's pretty much what I experience in every one of my speaker videos. Every one of the speakers gets shot out against my V30, and there's always a section where they're hard pan left and right, and pretty much every time I like that sound best. So other than that, I really, really like the V30 LCF 1150 speaker blend. I would really try to find speakers though that complement each other, like that have different mid emphasis, for example. And that's one of the reasons why I like using those frequency response tools in my speaker videos, because I can really see then how the frequency response is, where one speaker might have an emphasis and one speaker might dip out. And if I were to look for a blend, I'd kind of try to pair up speakers that, you know, leave space for each other. Are these tunes own composition? If so, what's the future of them? Yes, for the most part, the riffs you hear in my videos are written by me, with the exception of maybe one or two, let's say 5%, that were written by bandmates at the time. My band is not officially dissolved, but I haven't seen those guys in 10 years now. So we might get together again at some stage and whack them out. I've written quite a few more riffs since then that are more complex that I personally find a bit more interesting. I mean, you know, I'm a sloppy player, but at least I'm growing a bit as a musician. the future of them, I don't know. I might, when this setup is finished and I don't have all the trouble setting up lights, microphones, cameras every time, and then putting it back together, I'll have more time then hopefully to make videos and produce the videos a bit more. I might make an effort and record them properly. Haven't recorded anything really since 2016, I think. So hopefully I've gotten better at that. And also I'd like to include, full mix sections in my videos. That's something you guys have asked for, but I haven't really been able to accommodate for that just for, just the time constraints that get in the way. I don't want to be working on a speaker video for, more than, let's say, a week. Yeah. So that's the future of them. I might record them properly at some stage. From one amp hoarder to another, how many of your amps can you make sound the same, or at least close to sounding the same? Yeah, the answer is probably a lot. I think we all suffer a bit from Ola Englund syndrome, where once you've played guitar for a while, once you've experienced a certain amount of amps and figured out how to dial amps, you just tend to instinctively go for that one sound, which is your sound, the sound you like. So getting an amp switcher was a bit of an eye-opener there. When I first had the Egnator SS4, I used the HE switchers now, just lining up more than 2 amps, maybe 3 and 4, and switching back and forth to them, and switching back and forth between them, just realizing how close I dial them. There are a few details that are unique to some amps, like the devil's in the detail. They don't sound identical. I think each amp has its own special sauce, but for the most part, I can get them to sound very similar. There's a few exceptions. The Dietzels have that low mid thing and a special kind of response. The Framus Cobra high gain sound is different again. The Dover is very dry sounding, and the Lichtlärm Audio Prometheus is just fantastic in every way. Again, the Marshall, the JVM 410 Joe Satriani edition, that's another amp that I'd probably be able to pick out in a blind shootout fairly quickly, because I don't love that amp. My JVM 210H that I had before, it sounded a little too harsh to me. Like, it was very abrasive in the highs, very aggressive, too much for me. And I sold that to fund the Satriani JVM because I heard that was different. That really moves a little too far in the other direction, but it's an amp I keep for references because it's so different. I went off on a bit of a rant there. I hope that answers the question. How do you feel about open back cabs? Again, I'm not really sure. I'm not the guy to ask there, just because I don't have enough experience with them. I've had 2 open back cabs. I had a Palmer cab, a Palmer 212, that had a kind of a semi-open back with 2 warehouse guitar speakers in that, and I didn't love that cab. And I'm not sure what it was, if it was the cab or that particular speaker combination. It had that ET65 and I think the Retro 30 in it, both in 16 ohms. Not sure if it was the speaker combination that didn't work or it was the cab. Anyway, it just kind of sounded small and thin. I didn't like it particularly. The other semi-open back cab I had was the Mesa Road King 212. That had it had a V30 on one side, which was closed. Ironically, I found out that had a warehouse guitar speaker Veteran 30 in it when I opened it. Kind of got screwed on that, but I later found a V30 Mesa OAM V30 from that same year to put in there. And when I sold the cab, the guy didn't want the vintage 30, so I ended up keeping that. Anyway, and on the other side, it had that Black Shadow C90 speaker, and that side was open. So there were 2 compartments to that cab, one open compartment for the C90 and one closed compartment for the V30, and that cab sounded outstanding. However, I've been talking to Ignacio Vanona from Jensen Guitar Speakers, particularly about the Blackbird speaker, and he recommends maybe using an open cab back for that. So I'm wondering if I need to get an open back cab and do more research on that. Again, I'm going on a rant. Hope that answers the question. Next one. Worst guitar gear sin ever committed? That could be a fun one. Yes, indeed, it could be a fun one because it depends how you interpret the question. Because, from a company standpoint, I think Gibson have committed quite a few guitar sins. I own a few Gibsons. In fact, most of my guitars are Gibsons. I, for some reason, like how they feel and play. don't like the company particularly. I don't like how they have been conducting business in the last 1-2 decades. But the reverse V, disgusting. And I think that Grail Explorer they did, where it was just kind of hollowed out sections, basically just a wooden Explorer shaped frame with a guitar neck on that. Not too fond of those experiments, much like the Firebird X, or when they kind of screwed up their own line in 2015 with the wider necks, the brass. I just think they've always forced innovation the wrong way with their guitars. Other than that, anything abalone on a guitar, like in the early 2000s, Schecter had abalone inlays and what you call that, the shit that's around the body. I forget what it's called, but anything abalone, I think those looked awful. Couldn't work with those. Interesting enough, Schecter really turned that around. I think Schecter today makes some of the best looking guitars in the market. Like, again, John from Sonic Drive Studios had that, I forgot the model name, but it was all black with a single pickup. That looks so good. I'd really love to have one of those. Then you could interpret the question, worst guitar gear sin ever committed to me, and the worst guitar gear sin I ever committed. And the one committed to me, that's not proper English, but the worst guitar gear sin I was a victim to was on my Dietzel Hagen. You may have seen it in a couple of videos, and one video I did for Fane. It has a white head shell, and I bought that used. There was a few on the market. That one was the most affordable, but was also the one I wanted most because I liked the white head shell. So I got it in the post, pulled it out of the box. It was late at night. I didn't have much light. Looked cool, just flipped it on, quick test, everything fine. But in the next few days, I noticed that the scuff marks it has on the Tolex, they look kind of weird. And also, the Tolex felt strange. And then it occurred to me, especially when I pulled the chassis to take a look at the inside, some absolute dial tone had used just white house paint to paint that head shell. It wasn't a white head shell. Somebody had painted it like with paint you'd paint your wall with, probably with one of those rolling brushes. And yeah, that's amazing. Like, amp at that price range, like, go the extra mile, have it Tolex properly. I mean, not even with a rattle cam. Even that'd be insane, but just with a paintbrush. Anyway, it's still in that state. I figured I might re-Tolex it at some stage. If that is a video you'd like to see me failing catastrophically trying to re-Tolex a head shell, let me know in the comments. And the worst guitar gear sin I ever committed involves this Gibson Snow Falcon guitar here. I bought this guitar, this was a limited run, the Brendan Small Snow Falcon V, and I had never watched Metalocalypse back then ever before. I just really liked the look of the guitar. I was on a huge white guitar kick for a while, and they pretty much sold out, except one shop in Germany still had a few, and they were discounted. And I had just started my first real job, I think a year or two ago, and I had the money, and I bought that. But that first real job was far away from my home. So when the guitar arrived, I just gave it a quick play, seemed to be in order, and I forgot about it. I didn't get to play it for quite a while, and the return window had closed. But on closer inspection, the frets were in bad shape, and it had that sticky neck thing. And on some glossy painted Gibson guitars, like this SG here, this still has its glossy neck. On some of those, you will find that after you play for a while, it kind of develops sticky gunk on the back of the neck, and it's really annoying. It's really in the way. It's an annoying resistance when you play, and there's a few things you can do, or a few things guys on forums recommend. Some guys recommend polishing the crap out of the guitar necks. Others just like to rough it up a little bit with really fine steel wool or sanding paper. And the Snow Falcon Flying V had this in crazy amounts. It was no fun at all. It was a real piece of shit to play. I really disliked the guitar. At the same time, I didn't feel comfortable, selling that on to the next guy, like passing on the problem. And I was determined to make this a playable guitar because I thought it looked really cool. So I tried everything from roughing up the neck a bit, didn't work so much, to really polishing it smooth, also didn't work. Another thing was recommending UV light. So I put towels over the top and just kind of around the body and just had it stand in the sunlight at the window for several weeks. Nothing worked, so I decided again to polish the neck up a bit, and I put masking tape on the back of the headstock. No, I wanted to rough it up a bit, so I put masking tape on the back of the headstock and around the body, and went at it. And you may or may not know that there's a decal on the back of the headstock here. It shows that Snow Falcon. I had painter's tape on the headstock, or the back of the headstock. And when I carefully peeled off that masking tape, it took the Snow Falcon decal off and it broke. So the guitar was ruined basically from a collector's standpoint. That's when I decided, screw it. So I stripped the neck, oiled and waxed it. I'd done that with another guitar before. I tried to stain it white, but the staining didn't really stick. So you can see in the pores here, there's a bit of white residue. That's from that staining I tried to use. Yeah, it looks like shit, but it plays really well now. Yeah, so that's the biggest guitar gear sin I ever committed. Probably never going to sell this guitar. Won't get my money back at all. I don't care. It plays nice now. What is great about modern high gain music, and what was better in the past? That is an interesting question. I think what was better about high gain music in the past was I was young. And I'm serious about that. You know, kind of when you're in your teenage years, the figurative years, you really discover new music, and it really hits you harder. It's because it's the first time you're hearing that. And then later in your late 20s and early 30s, and without a doubt mid 30s that I'm in now, it's just not the same anymore. Apart from that, you know, you could say that the democratization of music production is both a positive and a negative, depending on how you see it. On the positive side is it has given you access to so much more music, and it has allowed people to record their music and release their music that previously might have been gate-kept for the wrong reasons, like because it wasn't mainstream enough or commercially attractive to labels before. We now get that. I see there's kind of less boundaries between musical genres. People are less afraid to bring in influences from completely different genres now, which I think is awesome. On the other hand, you could say that this gatekeeper is gone now, and now we have this inflationary amount of, there's so much music out there, and it's hard to see the forest for the trees. It's really hard to find. So again, it's a bit harder to stick out there, and it may be harder to find that really high quality music and the really talented musicians as well. So yeah, another thing that I don't particularly enjoy with modern high gain music is this race to the lowest tone you can play. I think, yeah, everything under drop A kind of sounds, I don't hear the lower tones that well. I can't differentiate between them so well. Everything under A sounds the same to me. So that's my old man yelling at clouds take for you on that one. A gear or gadget of yours that you like a lot, you find most people may not know about. There's a few that come to mind. One is the gravity stand that I use in most of my speaker videos, pretty much every video there. The gravity stand that clamps directly to the cab and holds the microphone. I think those are awesome. I have to say, though, that Gravity sent me a few of those for free, so I'm not unbiased, but there's many other companies that make similar products, like the Amp Clamp, for example, I think is the name of one of them. But the first two of those Gravity stands I bought myself for that particular purpose, and I love them. I think they're much more convenient for what I do than regular mic stands, because I'm too stupid to use those. I either bump into them and the microphone is moved, that annoys me a lot because I can never quite get the right position, or I'm too stupid to clamp them down and the microphone just drops. Kind of like what happened in one of my recent videos where I compared the front loaded cab to the rear loaded cab configuration. Lost one of my room mics that way. Another one is the Groove Gear fret wrap here. Not for actually muting the strings when you're doing tappy stuff, because I don't do that, but just to live on the guitar's headstock to mute those overhanging stringies there, because when you're kind of playing chugs and you mute your strings, those tend to ring out a bit. And it drives me crazy when I can hear that on the recording, when there's some ringing there. Absolutely loathe that. So same with Floyd Rose guitars or tremolo guitars. I put a big piece of foam in the spring cavity to stop the springs from ringing out. So that's great. Also, where is it? Tube Amp Doctor sent me one of these conversion rings for putting 12-inch guitar speakers in 12-inch cabs. You'll see this in an upcoming video. I haven't used this yet, but I think this could have the potential for being one of these pieces of gear. So you see there's mounting holes for 12-inch guitar cabs, and there's these threaded studs poking out there with nuts to mount your 10-inch speaker. I think that could be very cool. I have a question. Dear John, why did you break our hearts? In the Synergy VH4 versus Diezel VH4 video comments, you said you'd be shooting out the VH4 pedal versus the VH4 amp. And then you never did. To be honest, I didn't think anybody would really care about that. And I got distracted with so many other video projects I wanted to do, so I eventually just sold that pedal to fund other gear. Yeah, again, I didn't realize people were interested in seeing that. Though I have to say that the video where I compared the Diezel Herbert pedal to the amp was one of my early videos that performed really well. So sorry about that, buddy. I might have to get another one of those pedals and make that shootout. Yeah, I'll do that eventually. So I'm out of time. That's not true. I'm out of questions. That's all the interesting questions I had. I hope you found this video interesting or entertaining, or ideally even both of those things. And I hope to be back very soon with more videos for you, more amp videos, more speaker videos, and more testing videos. As I said, I'm in the process of setting up this room. I think it's going to be very cool. I'm very excited for that. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions, if you like these videos, let me know in the comments. Let's talk. Yeah. Thanks again for watching. Bye.